Good afternoon, mathematicians. It's a great day to have a great Thursday. Um, don't know why I started off being weird. I think you should just be used to that by now. So, anyway, I'm coming at you today with another math lesson where we are reviewing some of our multiplication strategies. All right, so today we are reviewing what's called the standard algorithm. Now, I don't know why we call it the standard algorithm. I don't know what's so standard about it. Like, you can use any method to multiply that works for you. So why this one is the standard, I don't know, but that's what we call it. So anyway, uh, let's go through our learning objective and then let's get to work. Our learning objective or our goal for today is that I can explain the importance of place value in the standard algorithm for multiplication by solving multiplication expressions using the standard algorithm. Okay, so let's just get into it. Okay, we're working with 2-digit times 2-digit multiplication this week. Um, so let's do a 2-digit times 2-digit. Let's keep it simple, not any huge numbers. Okay, let's do 17 times 22. Let's do that one. Okay, now this is an expression. Okay, numbers are in standard form. One of the big things that I want you all to understand about multiplication and about numbers in general is that they can tell you just as much information as, and you can get just as much information from them as you do if you were to read a sentence in a book. They're not just numbers that you have to work with, they're telling you something. Okay, so teacher, let's go ahead and pause this video and let's talk about what is this expression 17 times 22 telling us? Use our prior knowledge of what we've been talking about, use our knowledge about just what we're talking about. Have a conversation. I'm interested to hear what you have to say. Okay, so hopefully, as you were talking with your teacher, you had the conversation about gosh, I'm like covering the camera. Do you love how I'm like talking and like showing you things, but you can't see it because I'm covering the camera? Um, I hope you had the conversation about when you see a multiplication expression, that's telling you how many groupings or how many copies of something that you have, right? So in this expression, for example, you have 17 times 22, which tells you that you either have 17 groups of 22. Okay, so you have 22 17 times. Like if you bought 17 boxes of pencils and there were 22 pencils in each box. Or um, since multiplication is commutative, remember numbers can move around and you're going to have the same product, you could also have 22 groups of 17. Okay, so 22 boxes of 17 pencils. Makes sense? Um, so, what we're going to do is we're going to put this into standard algorithm. Now, when we think about standard algorithm, I always think about standard stacked. Okay, we're stacking numbers and multiplying them that way. In multiplication, one of the things that we can always remember, and we saw this yesterday when we were talking about the area model, using the area model to multiply and talking about those partial products, right? Finding parts of a whole. We know that our numbers are going to be multiplied to all the other numbers, if that makes sense. So this 2 in our ones place in 22 is going to be multiplied to the ones place in 17 and the tens place in the 17. The 2 in the tens place of 22 is going to be multiplied to the sevens place in the ones, or the ones place, the 7 in the ones place, and the 1 in the tens place in our number 17. So, all that to say, that's why when we have multiplication, our place values don't necessarily need to be lined up. It looks very nice and very pretty if it is, and in standard algorithm, they should be, but they don't have to be. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this started. All right, now as I said like 2 seconds ago, I always think of these numbers in their decomposed forms. Okay, so if I'm decomposing 17 and 22, 17 is the same thing as 10 plus 7. 22 is the same thing as 20 plus 2. I like thinking of these numbers in their place values. So when we're doing standard algorithm, we always work right to left. It's the opposite of reading. And what we're thinking of is we're thinking of multiplying the place values, the numbers in the place values of our grouping times our other factor. So here we're going to start with the ones place, okay, of 22. So in the number 22, we have two ones, and we're going to start multiplying. So if I have 2 times 7, that tells me that I have 14. The number 14, too big to be in one place value, right? If we think about our place value chart, if I put 14 in there, that would mean that I have 4 ones and 1 10, right? So I'm going to put down my 4 ones, leave it in the ones place, but then I'm going to move my 1 10 over to the tens. Okay. Then I'm going to multiply 2 times 110. Well, 2 times 110 is the same thing as 20, right? So I would put a 2 in the tens place, but then I also have one more 10. So if I have 2 tens plus one more 10, and remember that one more 10 came from our number 14, then we would have 3 tens, which is the same thing as 30. So I'm going to put a 3 in my tens place. Okay, so doing a quick check for understanding with place value, this 3 in the tens place tells us that we have 30, and this 4 in the ones place tells us that we have 4 ones. All right, now we are all done with the 2 in the ones place in the number 22. All done with it. We don't need it anymore. We've multiplied 2 ones times 7 ones and 2 tens. We're done with it, so we're going to put an X. Now, I want us to think about this. If we've multiplied everything times a 1, right? Okay, then naturally it makes sense that we start in the ones place. But let's think about this number here. This number is in the tens place. So we're not really multiplying by 2, right? I mean, we're multiplying by 2 tens. So if I multiply anything by a 10, it's going to equal 10 or more. Does that make sense? So if I multiply anything times a 10, it's going to equal 10 or more. So is there a chance at all that if I'm multiplying something by a 10, that I'm going to have a number in my ones place? Let's pause the video. Talk about that. If I multiply something by a 10, is there a chance that I'm going to have anything in the ones place? All right. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for coming back. I hope you had the conversation that no, if you multiply something times a 10, you are always going to have a number that is going to be 10 or greater. So if we're not worrying about the tens place, I'm going to put a 0 in if we're not worrying about the ones place, I'm going to put a 0 in the ones place, because we know that for the rest of this, because we're multiplying by a 10, we're not going to have a number in the ones place. Okay, so now let's just get to multiplying. If I have 2 tens times 7 ones, I'm going to have 14 tens, right? So I put my 4 in my tens place, because 14 is going to be too much for one place value. Thinking about place value, right? If I have 10 tens, that's the same thing as a 100, right? Okay, we're done with you. Okay. And so I'm going to put my 1 extra 10 over here. Now I have 2 tens times times 110. 2 tens times 110. Well, I can use my base fact of 2 times 1, okay, which is 2. And then I have 10 times 10, which is 100. 2 times 100 is 200. So that tells me I have 2 hundreds. Plus, I also had this one extra 100 from when I did 2 tens times 7 ones. So altogether, I would have 3 hundreds. Okay. Now, I'm all out of numbers. We're done with that. I have no other numbers to multiply. So now, just like in our area model, after we've done the multiplying, we're going to add all of our products together. Friends, this is just the same thing that we did yesterday in the area model. We found the partial products, and now we're adding them all together. So in my ones place, I have 4 plus 0. 3 plus 4 is 7. And 3 plus 0 is 3. So my product to 17 times 22 equals 374. If you don't believe me, let's ask the Google. Hey Google, what is 17 times 22?
The answer is 374.
So there we go. All right. Let's double check our objective for today. It says, I can explain the importance of place value in the standard algorithm for multiplication by solving using standard algorithm. Okay. I think we did that, especially when we had that conversation about why this 0 is here. Double check with your teacher. Teacher, have one more check for understanding with your students. Why is that 0 there? Okay. And then let's move on to our seesaw activity. Y'all are great. I hope you have a fantastic day. Keep up the great work and go and be brilliant. I'll see you tomorrow.